Here we go now with our good buddy Steve Phillips. He looks raring to go there as we say hello, Mr. Phillips. How are you? He told me on radio a long time ago that he said keep an eye on what's going on in Philadelphia. He nailed that with Girardi. So I'll start with the Angels, Steve. They have absolutely hitting rock bottom, 12 of 15. They can't win a game under any circumstances. That they have a huge payroll. Listen, I'm not saying, but I am curious if Joe Madden is in any kind of trouble. What can you tell me about that? Go ahead.
I think it's unlikely that Madden's in trouble. And you know, look, they were just, you know, a couple weeks ago, 10 games over 500. They were playing great baseball. They've lost 11 straight games. You know, they're not hitting. Mike Trout 0 for 26. Now that's uncommon, unexpected. And, you know, anything from him might change the record right now. Here's the thing. They don't have a stopper in their rotation. They're going to hope Syndergaard can be that guy tonight. But the other thing to keep in mind, they're one of the hardest teams to manage because of Shohei Ohtani. And so if you're going to change managers, the idea of bringing somebody in who's going to have to communicate, understand, get to know Ohtani, figure things out, that's going to be really tough. Certainly bringing somebody from the outside in is going to be a challenge. And therefore, if they do make any change, it's going to have to be somebody from within who understands the whole process and the communication with Shohei Ohtani and, you know, what he can do and what he can't do. It's such a complicated team. Oftentimes a 6-man rotation, and how are you going to manage that? So they don't have Anthony Rendon in the lineup. Mike Trout's not hitting. Taylor Ward, who was an MVP candidate early in the season, on the injured list. They've got a lot that has gone wrong at the same time. It's been the perfect storm. I think they have to ride it out and find a way to just stop the bleeding right now and at least feel like they can turn things around. They need Syndergaard to step up and be a stopper in the game today.
All right, how about Thompson in for Girardi? They came back and won 3 straight. You knew that they had to do something with that huge payroll. And as you make a good point, you know, the Phillies have sort of stumbled around 2.5 years. The Angels were 11 over 500 not too long ago. I'd shown you some signs. But how about Thompson long-term in Philadelphia? Do you like that move? Let me hear your thoughts there.
Well, I like Rob Thompson. You know, I've got to know him a little bit, helped him prep for some interviews for managers' jobs back in the day. So I know him pretty well. He's a really good baseball guy and a guy who's familiar with the organization there. But I don't look at what happened over the weekend necessarily as long-term cause and effect. Maybe a lot of times you change managers, it is a punch in the gut. It's a slap in the face to the players. They wake up a little bit. They get things going a little bit. It's a change in energy and dynamic. Bryce Harper was so fired up. The fans in Philly were fired up. But here's the reality. The Phillies have warts, and their warts haven't gone away. They can't catch the ball, and their bullpen is a real struggle. So, look, the great win yesterday, it was terrific, but they gave up the lead in the 9th before the Bryson Stott home run. And so they have problems. They didn't have a managerial problem. They've got a roster construction problem. They don't have a great bullpen, and they can't catch the ball. And so those things aren't changed despite the manager. So the offense got going a little bit. They can outslug some of their mistakes, and they're going to have to do that throughout the course of the season. That's not a good formula for consistent success. And so Rob Thompson's terrific, but until they get better defenders and until they get some answers in that bullpen, I don't think long-term consistency is in the cards for the Phillies.
Excellent point there. All right, I said here at the top, the Yankees and the Mets and the Astros are home free in their divisions. I know Atlanta playing a little better. What's your take on that aspect of those 3 teams already having clinched a playoff spot? What's your take on that 1/3 of the way through the season?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I do. I think that those are elite level teams with balance, right? There's no major weaknesses. We can talk about what those teams are going to do at the trade deadline. They don't have any major needs that they're going to have to fill. So it's going to have to be, complementary players. They're very good, very consistent performance. They can win every kind of game, right? Those teams that win 95 to 105, they win all kinds of games. On a day that they don't pitch, they outslug their opponents. On a day that they fall behind early, their really good bullpen does what bullpens do. They don't just hold leads, they hold deficits so the offense can come back. How many come from behind wins have we seen from the Mets so far this year? The Dodgers, the firepower, the Astros, the offensive production that they have, and they keep changing names and keep producing. Those are the elite teams. I'm with you. They're going to win their divisions. They're going to likely run away with those divisions, and it's going to come down to how do they set themselves up for October baseball. For the Mets, obviously, it's going to be the big acquisitions. The deadline for them are going to be DeGrom and Scherzer, right? Nobody's going to be able to match what the Mets are going to do at a trade deadline, and they're not going to have to give up anything to get them. Then it comes down to preparation for October baseball, but those 3 seem to be separating themselves from the pack.
Interesting thoughts there. Minnesota and the White Sox, Steve. The Twins, obviously, they had a nice weekend in Toronto. They won 2 out of 3, which was something they needed to do after that bad series in Detroit when they lost 4 out of 5. All right, here come the White Sox now, who won the last 2 games in Tampa. Maybe gets their season straightened out a little bit, but they're 4 or 5 games behind. What do you see there? Let me hear.
Well, I thought the White Sox would run away with the division. I didn't think the Twins were really a factor. And the Twins do that. Whenever we think they're not going to be good, they're actually pretty good in a playoff contender. When we think we have expectations, they don't perform. So, look, I think they're doing a really good job piecing it together. I don't really believe in their pitching. They're relying upon some young guys and Dylan Bundy and Chris Archer. Boy, the bullpen's going to get worn down deeper into the season. The White Sox need Lance Lynn back in the mix. They need to get some of their horses back in that rotation. They need to get that formula going a little bit again. They can do it, but they can't wait too long to turn it on. And so I still think the White Sox are going to win this division. I'm not off of them just yet. It hasn't felt great so far, but I do think their roster is deeper, stronger, better, and more is better constructed, that I think in the long run, they're going to pass the Minnesota Twins and win that division.
All right, how about Soto? I know the GM went on local radio last week and said he's part of the plans. We're going to build around him. But you and I both know there is absolutely no way that agent's going to let him not look at free agency. And I'm not sure if anybody's going to give him $500 million, especially in Washington, that ownership now in a state of flux. If you were running the Nationals, running it, would you unload Soto right now and get a parcel full of prospects and rebuild it? Or would you try to somehow kind of finagle your way in the next year and a half and try to convince him to stay with your team? How would you handle that?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I completely agree with you. He's not going to sign before going to free agency. And because of that fact, even if I'm the Nationals and I want him for the long term for my franchise, trade him now. Get the prospects in, develop the prospects, and then sign him when he goes to free agency with whatever team you traded him to, because he's not going to sign right now. Now, here's the thing. He is hitting .230 so far this year, and you would think maybe he might reconsider $350 million or at least try to negotiate off of that. But they've got visions of $500 million. And so I think the likelihood is that he's not signing. So you might as well trade him, and trade him with as much time as you have available to you so you can get as much talent in return. And then if you have interest, pony up the $500 million, bring him back, and now you've got all these players you can play around him, but it makes no sense holding him now. They're not going to win in the next 2 or 3 years. They're not. They've got to rebuild. They're not anywhere close to being a competitive team in that division with teams who are really going for it, with the Mets who are spending money. So I think that they should absolutely deal him, bring in the prospects, and then re-sign him later if they want to.
All right, any managers right now? You said Madden's okay. Any managers right now that you think are in sort of some hot water? You mentioned Girardi. You nailed that. Anybody else right now, third of the way through the season?
Yeah, I think the only other one to really consider, I guess, is Madden. Now, I don't see it happening, but, I don't know how Artie Moreno's looking at things right now and Perry Manassian and how they're looking at things right now. But that could be one. But I think the other teams that are rebuilding, they're going to keep their guys. There's no sense paying 2 managers overall. So I don't see Kansas City doing anything, although they had bigger expectations than what they're playing. But I think those were false expectations. I didn't think they were going to be that good this year. I think the Tigers, A.J. Hinch, you know what the Tigers will do? They'll play better than 500 the second half of the season and give people a reason to hope for next year, but they're not really going to be competitive this year. The Pirates and Derek Shelton, they're just rebuilding. So I really don't see any major team that's going to do anything with it. I think that you look down with the Marlins. I think Don Mattingly, I think they're better than what they're playing, but I don't think they were going to be a playoff team to begin with. And I don't think Kim Eng's going to make a move down there now. So I think we're probably going to stand pat with managers at least to the end of the season.
Excellent job, Steve. Always a pleasure to talk. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you coming on here today.